I'd like to introduce our staff, Jen, Jill, Maureen, Candy, Rachel. Would you guys stand up, please? These are the folks that make it happen. Also joined today is the chairman of the EDC, Chris Fogel, and we also have Sharita Walker on our executive committee, so we have great leadership. I'm going to spend a little time introducing our distinguished panelists in a few minutes, but we have a couple of presentations that we want to do quickly. So what I would like to do, we have both Steve Garrett of Lucie and Associates and Peter Crane with Sansone Group that have a few comments. So Steve is going to come up and talk on behalf of Mattamy, and he has a quick presentation, nothing like a cold beer on a hot afternoon with a PowerPoint presentation. Right, Steve? And I've got one too, just so buckle your seatbelts. So first we'll have Steve come up and then Pete.
Thank you, Pete. Wow, what a group. Steve Garrett, Lucie and Associates. I'm a landscape architect. Our firm is 34 years in existence. We do land planning, landscape architecture, environmental stewardship related projects. Where the hustle brings the heat, right? Where the hustle brings the heat. So a little bit of backstory. Tradition, we've been fortunate to have been involved in the hustle and the heat of tradition way back. Before it was even something on paper. Back when Pete Hegner, Tom Babcock, Mr. McCurry was involved with tradition as well, back then when it was just a vision. And it's that early hustle that has started to create all the heat today. In 2018, we continued our involvement with tradition when Mattamy acquired tradition as master developer. They acquired all three DRIs. And we got visuals. They acquired all three DRIs, which are commonly referred to as tradition, but it's Western Grove, tradition, and Southern Grove. And the city of Port St. Lucie acquired the jobs corridor, 1,224 acres, that is now extremely successful and will be, I'm sure, talked about. Mattamy, in their acquisition, got about 7,500 residential units, 1.3 million square feet of non-residential, and then the city in the jobs corridor got about 1,800 residential units, 10.5 million square feet of non-residential, warehouse, distribution, manufacturing, R&D, and commercial, along with now what was purchased by Cleveland Clinic, the Tradition Hospital. Here's just a brief list of the projects from Cleveland Clinic, who has originally a 20-acre campus here. They're expanding by 13 acres. They're expanding also for another additional 44 acres. So we're going to have probably over 100-acre state-of-the-art medical campus right here in Tradition over time. Yeah, South Florida Orthopedics, Kaiser University, hotel. You got Oculus, Tamco, Excel Network, not to mention Amazon, Cheney Brothers, FedEx, Legacy Park, again, I think 3.5 million square feet for warehousing as well. There's the heat. All that hustle has paid dividends for the city and Tradition. Today, we're seeing the fruits of that heat and that labor. And then relative to Mattamy as master developer, this is specific to Southern Grove, both of these maps, but you can see Vitus, Thompson Thrift, Bodner. We have residential developments consisting of Manderley, Tularo, a lot of age-restricted and multi-gen communities, and a ton of rentals, from single-family rental homes to your traditional apartments as well. Probably a couple thousand units in the rental market coming that's here and being expanded. And then Western Grove, just if you follow Tradition Parkway out west, Western Grove is one of those three Tradition DRIs. And it has about 4,200 residential units, a school, a fire station, obligation, and commercial as well. A couple 100,000 square feet of potential commercial out there. This just shows you three of the active neighborhoods that Mattamy is underway with in constructing. Emerly, which is to the right of the screen, is only 132 homes. It's sold out. And we have a Home for Hero event tomorrow out there where Mattamy is gifting to a veteran a home within that community that's completed. And then you have Cadence and Seville. Again, probably close to 12, 1,300 units actively underway out in the western community. And then just to highlight Tradition Regional Park, Mattamy did a public-private partnership with the city of Port St. Lucie to bring the first regional park to the city. It's a 100-acre active regional park. That'll begin construction this fall. And you may or may not be aware of Tradition as a master plan community of 3 DRIs. Mattamy has re-envisioned Tradition Trail, which is a multimodal transportation system. It's the red line weaving between all 3 DRIs. Multi-use path, a autonomous vehicle called TIM. We have 4 of them running currently, connecting all of these destinations. You'll see there are a lot of the regional park, there's Stars and Stripes, So Grow, which is a planned amphitheater project. And just to highlight one that's fairly monumental or iconic is the Heart in the Park project. And that is the international artist, Jeffrey. We went to a public art advisory board last week. It's a 60-foot tall stainless steel heart, very similar to like the Arch in St. Louis or the Chicago Bean. You will be able to go through the visitor center, go up a set of stairs, and actually go to the elevated walkway there. And it's just under an acre public plaza and space showcasing the heart. And with that, introduce.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pete Crane from Sandstone Group. Thanks for coming out. Little history on Sandstone Group because we're not well known. We're out of St. Louis. We've been in business about 65 years. Had a presence in Florida, but for whatever reason, a lot of perfect storm scenarios. Legacy Park at Tradition's really our first big development in the state of Florida, and we couldn't have picked a better part of Florida to do it in. And a lot of that has to do with people in this room, Pete and the EDC, city officials. I mean, it has been a whirlwind over, what do you say, Wes, 2.5 years? I think is when we had our first meeting about what this could be at the Southern Groves, which is the most southern end to that 1,200 acres of Tradition. And it was already somewhat decided that it would be for a jobs corridor, light Class A industrial, and that's exactly what we wanted to bring to the community. So, well, we went at it full bore, all gas, no brakes, and as it sits today, and I'll quickly go through the slides, I'll only be a fraction of time up here. We have just under 5 years to close on the entire 425 acres. We started the project, obviously, with one of St. Lucie County's first Fortune 500 companies in FedEx. That's a 245,000 square foot prototype specific for them. We were able to get an AMZL deal, which is an Amazon deal, difficult deal to get done, 220,000 square feet. Brought them to the site along with Cheney Brothers, as you all saw in them. That really activated some of what we're doing on a speculative basis. So for us as a company, we have close to about 7 to 8 million square feet under construction currently. Arco Murray has almost all of that work. They're doing Legacy Park as well. They're doing a tremendous job. And we've probably closed on and not yet started construction on an additional 40 million feet. So what you're seeing in Port St. Lucie in Tradition is really a microcosm of what you're seeing nationwide and the type of success that Class A light industrial is getting. And because of the city, because of the county, because of everything that we're doing here, it's turned into probably the largest logistics park in the state of Florida. When it's fully built out, it'll be roughly 13 buildings at 5.4 million square feet. And if we continue the credit profile that follows an Amazon, a FedEx, and a Cheney Brothers, I feel really good about what the vision is that we all had in the beginning of this thing and what we're executing on. I don't even know what button I'm supposed to be hitting, but I think it's the green one. Don't hit the red one. Oh, that makes sense. Little history on our company. We were just ranked number 9 developer with no distinction between public and private companies. Big deal for a family operation that's been in business for about 65 years. You can see some of the numbers that I talked about. And again, from Banning, California, up to exit A8 in New Jersey, down to Port St. Lucie, we're building these types of parks, just not as great as the Legacy Park of Tradition, of course, and typically not at this size. So that's one of the things that you'll notice with the park. There's a little illustration that you'll see with the spec buildings, and that's Becker Road on the bottom, obviously I-95 on the right. And as we work our way up, just a little side story. A lot of people in this room have read about Amazon pulling back. There was talk that maybe we would do another Amazon building within this park, and because of them quote unquote pulling back, that won't happen. But I believe that there is a high likelihood that we may be building 2 1 million square foot buildings concurrently for 2 other Fortune 500 companies in this park. I know that there's people in here that have been doing this way longer than me, and to even say that for a state of Florida, for some of the hottest markets in the country, it doesn't seem like a possible comment for where Port St. Lucie was just a little while ago. So it's accelerated at a fast pace, and we're making the most of it. Just a couple slides on the one building that is open and operational is the FedEx. Again, 245,000 square foot build-to-suit. That's the Amazon build-to-suit. Essentially, that's a FedEx within an Amazon building, massive sortation type of facility. I should know how many packages are going through these buildings, but I can't keep all the numbers straight. We just did tilt wall construction last week on the 168,000 square foot spec building. This will probably be tenanted by 2, maybe 3 tenants. You could say the same thing for the 520,000 square foot spec building where, if we could get the concrete, we would be pouring the slab much faster than we are. I think Buster's in the room and could attest to some of the challenges that we're having on the construction side, and they're doing a great job trying to navigate those waters. And like I told you, I was going to go as fast as possible so you can get to this panel. But I want to thank NAIOP for coming this far north. I know this may not have ever been done before. And I just sincerely want to thank Mattamy Homes, who we're neighbors with and partners with in sponsoring the event, and everybody that makes Port St. Lucie what it is, because it's not just good real estate. It literally takes that whole live, work, play, their labor segment. There's so many things that makes this the perfect park. We're honored to be here. We're honored to be a part of the company. And I thank you guys for coming up to listen to that.
How you guys doing? Ready for a nice economic demographic presentation? So, Pete, Steve, thank you very much. We really appreciate Sansone Group and Mattamy being the sponsor. I'd just like to say that NAIOP is a very critical component to our marketing and business prospect development efforts. And we do appreciate you all coming up here and spending some time. I think we tried to do this several years ago, and we had like 3 or 4 people show up. So this is a dramatic turnaround, and again, we appreciate your time. 2 people that I'd like to introduce that are very critical to our economic development efforts that are in the audience. One is Elijah Wooten with the City of Port St. Lucie. Elijah is a Senior Economic Development Manager and definitely a contact for you with the city. And Thondra Lanise is here. Hi, Thondra. She's the Business Navigator for St. Lucie County. So we're going to go through this presentation quickly so we can get to the experts. And I'm sorry I have my back to you all. So quickly on demographics about St. Lucie County. We have a population of 343,000. Our labor force is about 152,000. Age distribution, 54% of the population is between ages 20 and 65. Unbelievable low unemployment rate. It's dipped below 3%. The median age for St. Lucie County approximates the state at 45 years of age. I have about 130,000 households. And what's important to note is that 64% of those households have a total household income of $75,000 and below. Looking at growth, it's no secret that St. Lucie County has had tremendous population growth over the last 5 or 6 years. Currently, we're averaging over that time 18.2% growth. And it's forecast to keep growing into the next 5 to 10 years. So this area is really going to explode. Looking at somewhere between 2030 and 2040, maybe close to 600,000 people if you believe the economists and the demographers. Workforce is actually a very critical component to what we do, and part of the competitive nature of St. Lucie County is reflected definitely to the average earnings per worker. As you can see here, St. Lucie County is very competitive, right around $42,000 annualized per year in salaries when you compare our neighbors to the north and south. What's really a hidden asset is labor mobility. Approximately 62% of our workforce hops in a car to drive someplace else to go to work every day. So that's a tremendous outcommute. We have a work local campaign, and we're trying to get our residents, our commuters, to find great jobs here in St. Lucie County in the Treasure Coast. I didn't fill up with gas today, but it was a couple of days ago. I think it was $4.30 a gallon. It's probably $4.50. You do that all week long, and it's a tremendous expenditure. So hoping that our residents will take advantage of the great jobs that are here. We'll make this number go down in the next couple of years. So Pete and Steve hit a lot on some of the business retention. What is really critical here is that it took us 5 years in the making to be an overnight sensation. So over the last 5 years, we worked 54 projects that resulted in about 12 million square feet of either reconditioned or built industrial and commercial space, an economic output of over $1 billion, 5,400 direct jobs. And when you look at the economic impact, direct, indirect, and induced jobs, it's 9,000 and climbing to 10,000 and over. We're also very pleased that this has been a balance between existing companies here locally that have expanded and also attracting new businesses in a variety of different industry sectors. Manufacturing, distribution, life sciences, corporate headquarters, aviation, and marine make some of those. We're really delighted to see that the quality and the sophistication of the companies is increasing, particularly as we see deteriorating economies in California and New York. We're getting a lot of calls. Since we're going to be here to 6:30, I'm going to go through each one of these. Jules has given me the hook, but just there's a lot of names on there that you see that are household names, and a lot of companies that are homegrown here that have made up the economic renaissance that we are experiencing here. So just to give you a little snapshot of what we've experienced as of April, 10 projects, 3 expansions, 6 new relocations, almost $12 million in capital investment, 1.68 million new square feet, and targeted over 1,100 jobs. We talked a little bit about Amazon. Amazon has their distribution center on I-95 in Midway. It's rapidly getting close to CO, 1.1 million square feet, and probably initially 500 full-time jobs going up to 1,000. Pete talked about Cheney Brothers. We're absolutely delighted to have this great Florida company here in our neighborhood. Contender, the marine industry is hot with fire here in St. Lucie County in the Treasure Coast. We're very happy that Contender out of Homestead is here with their new manufacturing facility. They took the old Indian River Packers building on the Turnpike and Midway Road, and they're scheduled to open pretty soon, Jen? Coming right up. FedEx, we'll talk a little bit more about speed to market, but this is a phenomenal project in acceleration. Pete, I think we had the groundbreaking in April of 2021, and they got their CO, I think somewhere mid-November, if I'm not mistaken, And Jill probably knows the exact date, but she had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on this project. So just rapid response when it comes to industrial development and getting facilities, both with the city and the county. So just to kind of give you a snapshot of what's occurring, not only here in Port St. Lucie in tradition, but through the entire county. It may be a little bit difficult to see, but you can see all the prominent national developers that have set up here, all the way from Legacy Park, going up to the north part of the county with Stonemont Financial. Actually, we're having a groundbreaking for them. I know Sky Groden is here, and we were talking about them getting up and running, so we're going to turn some dirt tomorrow. So what is real critical here is that obviously Tradition and Southern Grove and Legacy Park, and then also Tradition Center for Commerce with our good friend Richard Tamboni. This area is going to grow rapidly. Even when the city took over the property a couple of years ago, all the experts were saying that it was a 25-year build out. Well, they got the 25 right, but it should have been 25 months. So, Wes, great job, man. You got you got no more property left. So, great development occurring all along the I-95 corridor. Just a sample of some of the things that are going on in Tradition Center for Commerce and Southern Grove. Pete and Steve talked about this. There's a couple of projects that we're working with Richard Tamboni, Project Hard Rock and Project Eagle that would go up in Tradition Center for Commerce. We're also working with Mike Falk on Project Regina Gold. And as I mentioned earlier, we're starting to see a sophistication of projects where we're starting to look at corporate headquarters, advanced manufacturing, and also technology-based manufacturing. Up there is Axel International and Itasca. I know Sandra is here. This is a great manufacturing operation out of Connecticut that's setting up operations. Again, there's so many companies to talk about. I don't want to delay our panelists anymore. So thank you very much for allowing me to go through this. Hopefully the bar's open and you got to knock down a beer or two while I was talking. Youredc.com is our website. It's chock full of information about everything that we've talked about. On the homepage is reports and studies. And we have a lot of different studies, economic, demographic, business, property, etc. is on our website. Please feel free to look at that. And also we're available to talk to you at any time. So with that, Jules, is there anything that you want me to do prior to going to the main part of the presentation? Okay, great. That's a good cue to shut up. Thank you. So Jules gave me like 3-point font to read all their resumes, but I'm not going to do that because I can't see, first of all. But I know these people, these distinguished panelists very well, so we'll do my best. And what I'd like to say before I introduce each one individually is that we have a great mixture here of both public and private sector, and particularly with Wes and also Corey, working both with the City of Port St. Lucie and St. Lucie County. They have been at the forefront of getting site plans approved, purchase and sales agreements taken care of, and making the statement speed to market happen. We also have Nick and Christine that have jousted with the cities and the county on numerous occasions, and it's all in a very polite and congenial manner. But if anybody knows about going through the process, it's definitely Nick and Christine. Wouldn't you say so? Yeah, so they have a lot of things to share this evening. So Corey Benton is senior planner for St. Lucie County. Corey, you've been several years now with the county. I remember when you were the city of Fort Pierce. Corey's a longtime resident of the city of Fort Pierce. His dad was mayor. Mom and dad are delightful. They're great people. And Corey's done an excellent job helping companies fulfill their development plans, both with the city and the county. Wes McCurry is also with the city of Port St. Lucie. He's the community redevelopment director. That title does not really explain all that he does. Wes is the proverbial fountain of information of everything here in tradition. And he needs a bodyguard because if he got hit by a bus, we would lose a lot of institutional memory. So Wes, please be careful. We need you, man. Wes was with Tradition Land Company, and he worked with Pete Hegner many years ago. So he got to see the vision that Mr. Hegner had with core communities, gosh, over a dozen years ago to what has happened here. And what's also important is that when Wes was with Tradition Land Company, they tried to give away the property, which is now known as Southern Grove, and nobody took it. I just think that's very ironic, and maybe you can explain on that. We have Nick Schroth with NIA South Coast. Nick has done a lot of commercial and industrial development deals. What I like best is that he's principal with Isla Morada Brewing. Because as you know, beer is proof that God loves us. And I didn't say that, Benjamin Franklin did. So not only does Nick have a lot of real estate experience working in the manufacturing and production processes, has a lot of intimate knowledge about working through the process with the city and the county. And Christine Skirko with SLC Commercial, we work very closely with Christine and her staff. Christine, I can't even tell you about all the deals that you've done. I don't get to see you anymore because you're just making so much money and doing all these transactions. So I'm looking forward to getting caught up. Yes. So this is our panelists. Jules, how much time do we have here? I don't want to prohibit anybody from going to the bar or getting more food. So I want to get right into it. Okay, great. I used to teach economics, so I'm classically trained to put people to sleep. So I always ask. So I just want to make sure that we're all focused on this. So what I'm going to do is just ask some very general questions, and then I'm just going to kind of go through. Christine, we'll start with you because we're fascinated to hear about all the projects that you're working on. But what kind of industrial and commercial activity are you seeing that you want to share with the group that you think is special?
Well, I think we need to start with the fact for a long time and still today. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, Verizon. So for a long time, Jeff and I did the Tamco deal, and when we bought it, it was still with Tradition Land Company. 2018, we bought the land just before the rest of it got turned over to the city. And when we were looking for developers to come in as partners, about 50% of them didn't even respond to our solicitation. Nobody wanted the project. We did sell land that didn't have road access, so that might have been part of it. But we brought in the Tamco deal, and that started it. But that was 2018. We're in 22. We still have very limited inventory. My numbers are showing that we have about 900 acres with 11.5 million square feet in the works or approved. And but we actually need it to start coming because we have no inventory. I also do a lot of office, but I have a Project Glaze Commerce Center. It took me about 2 years to convince my client to buy 32 acres off of LTC Parkway and Glades. And shortly thereafter, Amazon came and we got it entitled, and now we sold it, and now I'm going to be leasing just under 300,000 square feet, which we're breaking ground for late summer with first quarter 2023 delivery.
Thanks, Christine.
I'm
Anything
trying
special?
I'm trying to keep things short.
Yeah, anything special in terms of projects that you're working right now?
Nope, that's about it.
Okay. Nick?
Yeah, just to echo what Christine said, 5 years ago, you could, drive out here and not see a single piece of machinery operating, and now there's lots of them. And it's interesting to see all the activity and really the different types of activity, because, I kind of look back to like the 2007 era and try to draw correlations, but it's totally different. St. Lucie West in 2007 had 1 million square feet of individual flex bay, warehouse going up. And, now I just wish somebody would build that stuff, because there's none of it out there, and there's tons of demand. So it's really different this go around. 11 million square feet is a little daunting, but, every time a building's built or proposed, it seems to get spoken for. So, that's pretty exciting.
Nick, if I might add, I mean, we've talked a lot about big boxes, 100,000, 500,000, 1 million square feet. Can you address maybe, and Christine's step in here too, about what you're seeing, at least in small and medium-sized companies that could use smaller space, whether it's flex space or other things under 100,000?
Yeah, and there's a ton of demand out there, and I don't know that the bottleneck is in anything that anybody in this room can control. I mean, if Tamco Murray's having trouble pouring concrete, we're not going to get that to build a 10,000 square foot building. Yeah. And so that struggle is really being felt in the market by everybody, big and small, and it's just driving pricing pressure up, and so again, correlating back to like 2007, this isn't a supply issue. It's who can actually get something done.
Great. Definitely like to see some more space for smaller companies. We could definitely use that. Wes, what are you seeing on the industrial side that the audience may not be fully aware of?
Turned it off, didn't I?
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
ON.
So, thanks.
They do it to me all the time.
So, you guys did a great job of giving the overview on everything that's been happening to date. A lot of exciting projects out there, the full gamut from warehouse distribution to industrial, mostly in the bigger box realm. Some of the things that everyone may not be aware of that we are starting to see come forward. And hopefully some of those projects break ground soon, and hopefully they'll be able to get the materials that they need and the labor that they need to make those projects happen. But it is some of the smaller space. There's a couple projects that Mr. Tamboni brought to the table in our arrangement with him. Miller Construction recently took down about 40 acres of land where they're planning up to about 400,000 square feet or so of that smaller space for the smaller to mid-size users. Hopefully they'll be breaking ground probably in June, I would think, if not later this month. And aside from that, there's another project that's just now starting to go through site plan review process. That is another, probably about 25 acres, planning another couple 100,000 square feet of flex space, distribution space, again, kind of catered towards, across multiple buildings, again, catered towards that smaller to mid-size user. So those projects are starting to come forward.
Excellent. Wes, as I mentioned to the group, that you're the CRA director, and also you spend a lot of your time on the city center property. Would you like to give the audience a little update or what's happening there?
Sure. So the city center property, if you're not familiar with it, it's on the other side of town. It's on US 1, right at the corner of US 1 and Walton Road. It was the impetus of the city's original community redevelopment project, which was converting a former shopping center into a destination, kind of a quasi village center downtown for Port St. Lucie. Port St. Lucie, if you're familiar with it, does not have a downtown. It was developed in the 60s by General Development Corporation, mostly 80,000 quarter-acre residential lots with very little room left for any kind of large-scale commercial development. So this was the attempt at creating a downtown for Port St. Lucie. Unfortunately, that attempt fell on some hard times. It got off the ground. There were bonds issued. The shopping center was tore down and redeveloped. New infrastructure was put in on a grid system. There was a developer that partnered with the city to develop the project. However, the Great Recession hit, and that project ended up getting foreclosed on and into some other legal trouble. Actually ended up getting seized by the Securities and Exchange Commission because a second developer that stepped in was involved in some fraudulent activities. So it had been tied up in receivership since about 2015. The city recently got ownership of that property. We acquired it from the receiver, and we are now embarking on a new master planning effort to kind of reimagine, re-envision what that project should be. It is still looked at as a destination for the east side of the city to kind of energize the US 1 corridor, promote redevelopment along that area of the city. So mixed use, kind of village center, entertainment destination still makes sense there. And we're going to be embarking on that master planning effort here coming up within the next month to elicit input from developers, brokers, as well as the public to kind of shape what that project should be moving forward.
Thanks, Wes. Appreciate the update. Corey, so let's talk about some industrial projects that you're working on, and then I want you to talk about speed to market. Corey and his team were instrumental in making it happen, particularly in the northern part of the county, with the manufacturing and marine industry. Great names like Maverick Boat Group and Pursuit and Contender. These are all things that are happening in the north part of the county. You're definitely the speed to market man.
Thanks so much. Excellent. I didn't even flip the switch. Now, again, Pete, appreciate the opportunity. In St. Lucie County right now, even tomorrow morning, we have the groundbreaking ceremony for the Stonemont I-95 Logistics Center, 1.3 million square feet, piggybacking on FDOT's investment in the Kings Highway Corridor. The Kings Highway Corridor, 4 lanes, new infrastructure, water, wastewater, that's driving a lot of the logistics and distribution activities that we're seeing demanded in the St. Lucie County north of Midway Road, around Okeechobee Road, Orange Avenue, tying into I-95 and the Turnpike. Coupled with that, directly across the street, Seafried, as you noted, over 500,000 square feet of distribution centers. And we're working with the private sector to consider land use changes, rezonings for continuous growth of the distribution hub along Kings Highway, using investment in infrastructure, leveraging public dollars for private investment. So one of the big themes, as you've noted, speed to market, is providing a level of certainty from our policymakers. And that's what's been so wonderful to work with at St. Lucie County and our partnerships with City of Port St. Lucie and the City of Fort Pierce, is a confidence from the policymakers that they support industry, they support job growth, quality of life, and providing that confidence of staff to accelerate these projects that are fulfilling that need. And so we're seeing that, but the private sector is always ahead of the game, and having that ability to collaborate and find solutions is key. But the market continues to pivot and react to changes in consumer decisions and routes. And so that's what we're seeing, is that need and that growth. And I think we're going to continue to pivot and change the game in St. Lucie County, building from what success we've had in South County and now into North County.
Corey, can you touch upon some of the incentives that the county has? And also, can you give any advice to the audience about, especially going through the initial site plan? Again, you guys have knocked it out of the park, getting site plans approved in 90 days and things like that. Any advice for the audience and their clients?
Call Pete Tesh. No. But to that point, in building on incentives, and we'll touch on some of the actual programs, but speed to market, Pursuit with their facility expansion, they had 250,000 square feet in St. Lucie County off St. Lucie Boulevard. They received site plan approval for 750,000 manufacturing square feet in roughly 8 weeks. We try to target that 2 to 3 months from start to finish for site plan approvals and the baseline entitlements. Working collaboratively with the design professionals, and obviously we'll tout some of the local connections because they understand our policies. They have relationships with the team, and if we have consistent expectations, they show up at the table, and there is that affirmation of the finish line, and we can get there a lot quicker. As far as incentives, the county has a wide variety of tools in our toolkit. Up this year for St. Lucie County, and I know the city of Port St. Lucie voters renewed their ad valorem tax exemption program. Our voters will be asked to extend that program, but that's a key opportunity to reward capital investment, job growth, and facilitation of training programs in our county by offering ad valorem tax exemptions. We have a job growth investment grant opportunity. If the company's wages meet our performance metrics, you're hiring at least 10 individuals, we have cash incentives that pay for performance, ensuring that we're growing our local workforce. We're providing skilled employees with livable wages to support their families and keeping folks here working in St. Lucie County, as Pete touted. We also have impact fee mitigation programs, where when we talk about development paying for itself and paying and funding roads and infrastructure and impact fees, the county has become a partner in that and understanding the positive impacts that industry and manufacturing and these job creators provide our local community and the residual effects. So we have a program where the county essentially funds and pays a portion of your road impact fees if you're providing certain metrics and deliverables to offset those costs as you're considering St. Lucie County versus a neighboring county or another region in the state of Florida.
Thanks, Corey. And Wes will just piggyback on you. Anything you want to add in terms of the incentive toolbox and things that we work together collaboratively to help bring home the company?
Sure. I mean, Corey did an excellent job of kind of laying out the incentives. The city has essentially the same incentive programs as the county does, with the tax abatement, impact fee abatement. And I think, the key that really sets the city apart, as well as the county, is that willingness to work with our development partners to see the projects through in an expedited fashion. To borrow a quote from the famous Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. So, the team that we have with Elijah and the rest of our development review team, Elijah acting as the navigator to help these projects through the process, really does represent an incentive that's not tangible when we meet with our project partners and they kind of get a feel for how we work with them collaboratively with a development team that kind of walks them through the process, expedites the reviews, addresses issues that come up on a kind of a real-time basis instead of just a continuous back and forth with comments. The first thing that we hear from them is, wow, this is nothing that we experience in any other jurisdictions that we work with. So I think that's one of the really key incentives that we offer.
Thanks, Wes. Christine?
I just wanted to comment. So I just wanted to comment on the speed to market. Again, we did the TAMCO deal, and that was one of the first ones that we saw that we needed help in that process. I served on the Planning and Zoning Board and Site Plan Review Committee for 6 years, so it is quite the process. So when TAMCO came up, we started doing the expedited, having the more meetings, having it more accessible, using local talent so that they know how our system and how our city and our county works. And it was a huge help. And since then, I've done several projects going through that same process, both with the city and the county, and it is fantastic. And everybody is saying, wow, we can't get this done like this anywhere else. So it is huge.
Great. Nick, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is the communication that you get. I mean, I've never not had an email answered or a phone call returned by Corey, and you know, Wes the same. And so, you know, when you go through the planning process and you get review comments that are, you know, where's Waldo kind of comments that don't seemingly have an obvious answer, despite whoever wrote them clearly having something in mind.
We've saved some of your emails, Nick.
Yeah, it's my favorite. But you know, to be able to pick up the phone and call someone and say, hey, you know, like, what am I missing here? And get that, you know, just being able to check that off the box is huge. And you know, the county, you know, in our experience with Isla Mirada, you know, I used to tell this story all the time, but I feel like some people at the county would get mad at me if I told it now because everybody's so busy. But when we bought a building that was built in 2007 and had been empty since from 2007 to 2016. And I think we applied for our interior build out permit on a Monday, picked up the permit on a Wednesday, and called for rough all trades on Friday. So that doesn't happen anymore, but it was pretty good. And it's not, you know, it doesn't happen because of a number of things, not just county staff being busy. You can't get me out there on Monday if you called me today anyway. So it's good to see everybody, you know, busier, and you know, it's good to see that communication hasn't been lost in the you know, in dealing with the county, and you know, even extending beyond Corey to folks like Thondra and, you know, the EDC, you know, helping out in that process. And, you know, a lot of times it's a little contentious, but, you know, there's people there that work through it. And, you know, there's always this kind of understanding that there's a finish line, and we all just need to work together to get to it.
So great. Just to add on to that, Nick and Christine, you as a professional real estate folks, obviously in the commercial and industrial arena, it's kind of a tight-knit group statewide. So like when you're, how do you describe to your clients and your colleagues about St. Lucie County, the advantages of coming here and doing business or doing through a real estate deal? What does that look like, especially for any individuals that might not be that familiar with St. Lucie County? What are the advantages and disadvantages?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of very clear advantages, you know, not just in the government side of things, not just in this, you know, willingness to, you know, speed projects along and a system in place to help that. You know, there's a quality of life here. I was born in Miami, grew up in the Keys, and have never lived north of I-4. But, you know, this area has a lot to offer those folks that are, you know, tired of South Florida traffic, and not that, you know, a lot of what we're doing isn't bringing some of that here, but it is a lot different here. It's a quality of life that's hard to find, you know, elsewhere in the state, and you know, a level of employment that is beneficial to a lot of the, you know, economic things that we're trying to accomplish here.
Great. Christine, anything to add to that? Okay. Anything that you all see on the horizon, at least dealing with projects or clients, whether or not is the pipeline full? I can tell you at the EDC, we're still getting bazillion projects. What are you guys seeing on the horizon?
I mean, every time I think something's out of balance, something seems to happen to kick it back into balance. I mean, you know, there's, you know, I don't know who in here has the crystal ball to tell us what's going to happen with the Fed and interest rates and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, this area has seen an influx of capital that I haven't seen in my career. And, you know, I don't see that, you know, being the kind of party that stops anytime soon. I mean, a lot of the folks that we're seeing commit capital to this area are not committing it on a 3-year turnaround. You know, it's being committed for generational, you know, reasons.
Okay. Corey, you want to comment on that?
Thanks, Pete. Yeah. And, you know, you touched on a lot of the keys of, you know, folks are coming to Florida. You know, our economy is growing. We're seeing a lot of metropolitan areas expanding, and ours is certainly heating up and bringing heat With COVID, with some of the changes and disruptions to supply chain, cold storage, food, agriculture, citrus, that's been shaken up in the state of Florida for decades. But I think that's really one of the key frontiers. If you look at the state of Florida, for decades we've talked about St. Lucie County is 2 hours from Miami, 2 hours from Orlando, 2.5 hours from Tampa, you name it. But we are the epicenter of logistics and distribution. If you look at how agriculture is produced in the United States, and particularly the eastern region, we are that next location to be able to serve and supply the state of Florida and be that hub to store and distribute it. And also with some of the federal mandated requirements on CDL drivers and durations of time that they can be on the roadway. If you map it out and look at St. Lucie County and our interchanges, trucks are here. Go up to Orange Avenue, go to Okeechobee Road. We have Loves, we have Flying J, we have, you name it, and they are packed, they are busy. We are constantly receiving phone calls of folks who simply want to build an expansive parking area for trucks to stage and stop. And so I think there's going to be that next demand in taking the 5, 10, 15 million square feet that's in the pipeline and active now, and raising that bar where St. Lucie County is serving the entirety of Florida with that roadmap. We have a deep water port or a semi-deep water port here. We have FEC rail, you name it. We have the logistics infrastructure that we need. The state is continuously partnering and expanding our roadway network. And so that's going to continue to provide an opportunity for us to serve and supply food region.
It's a good comment. We have in the city of Fort Pierce, and Corey mentioned the port of Fort Pierce, Director Shipyards out of Dania Beach has taken the port and is now a mega yacht repair and maintenance operation. And we think that's going to really provide a lot of great jobs and other capital investment opportunities for the area. Corey, I don't know if you want to comment just briefly on the airport, particularly with having more property than Miami International. But there's certainly a lot of opportunities for growth in aviation and logistics and other industries there at the airport.
Certainly, the Treasure Coast International Airport was acquired by the federal government after World War II, and it's a robust set of infrastructure. And as Pete noted, over 2,000 acres of land devoted to that. The county has invested in hangar space for maintenance, repair, and overhaul of aircraft and supporting aviation logistics, instrument development, and retrofits. And the county has objectives to be able to expand that, work with the private sector. We have land available in the Airport West Park. We actually have an opening for hangar space that's finished. We're pursuing grant funding to be able to provide more hangar space to support the private sector. We have private developers who are coming back with their capital to expand in the airport, which was softened during COVID. As we know, it impacted the airline industry significantly, but Aviator College and the actual training facility that's at the Treasure Coast International Airport continues to ramp back up. And so we see the airport, North County, this long-term vision of an airport connector road logistics corridor that connects to I-95 and the Turnpike in our North County is being a great opportunity to serve the expanded logistics and needs of the state of Florida and abroad.
So Wes, Southern Grove, you're going to be finished a couple months. What does the city do for an encore? What other areas that the city needs to focus on in terms of either commercial or industrial development outside of tradition?
US 1 corridor is definitely, the next area that the city needs to focus on. I mean, as far as industrial development, there's, some other areas in the city along Midway Road, Rangeline Road that can still accommodate some continued industrial development. But one of the key areas that I think you're going to see the city start to focus on is definitely the US 1 corridor. With the acquisition of the city center property and the ability to kind of reposition the plan for that and move it forward, get it back into the development community for potential mixed-use development, as well as potentially retaining some of that property for public use, is really going to be critical. That is kind of viewed as the catalyst to really redevelop and reinvigorate the US 1 corridor. US 1, I think, has a tremendous opportunity for redevelopment opportunities up and down the link throughout the city. Don't know that it can accommodate industrial development. I think there are definitely opportunities there for multifamily development, other mixed-use type developments to occur, and some of those shopping centers that, you know, are aging and haven't had reinvestment put into them. But it's going to be a challenge too, because they're cash flowing. They're not empty. You know, I mean, they've got tenants in them. They just might not be the tenants that everyone wants to see. So it's definitely going to be a challenge, and hopefully, you know, positioning that city center project and getting the right developers in there to help partner us with us on that, like we did with Southern Grove, will be the catalyst to kind of get some of those property owners to realize maybe there's an opportunity for more cash flow if I take some cues from city center and kind of look at some different options for how I can redevelop what I have.
Great. Nick, Christine, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I just touching on something Corey was talking about in a lot of these companies locating here. I think the founder of BlackRock had mentioned an end to globalization in a recent article, and you know, whether it's the end or just a shifting in it. If you take what, you know, Pete Crane is talking about in Sansone as an overall company and the expansion of light industrial that they're seeing across the country, you know, there is a lot of opportunity to bring a lot of that here to St. Lucie County, and you know, the quality of life and the positioning of St. Lucie County is, you know, essentially that you know, not South Florida, but kind of South Florida location is pretty attractive for a lot of, you know, especially manufacturing and logistics companies.
Christine, you want to add to that?
South Florida, but not South Florida.
Yeah.
You know, I am from South Florida. I was in Fort Lauderdale for most of my life. So, but that's most of the comments that we get. And when people call us and they're looking for space, that's who we're talking to. We're talking to the Broward and Palm Beach people looking to either expand or relocate to this market.
Thank you for sharing that. So just as we kind of round out the panel here, just going to throw something on the table. From the Economic Development Council's perspective, there's two issues that are very worrisome to us in the community. One is the tightening labor market. You know, you saw the figure that 2.7% unemployment, you know, unprecedented, historically low. So we're really concerned about being able to get sufficient numbers and quality of individuals into the workplace for all these projects. And the second is affordable workforce housing. You know, you're seeing what's happening all over the country. It's not just unique to St. Lucie County. So these are two troubling, complex issues that we're trying to grapple with. Anything that you all would like to comment on those two, or some things that you see that are either positive or troubling?
Yeah, I mean, the workforce, you know, I feel ebbs and flows. You know, Florida is attracting lots of dollars and investments. It's at some point attracting lots of people who are moving here looking for, you know, better employment, and whether that's someone, you know, loading their family into a 20-year-old minivan to move down here for a $20 an hour job, or someone moving here for a six-figure white-collar, you know, salary, that is happening. So I think that ship starts to right itself. Affordable housing, the same thing. I mean, it takes 5 years to build an apartment complex. I grew up in the Florida Keys, where, you know, the double-wide trailer I grew up in is not a double-wide trailer anymore. So the Keys is a place that has an affordable housing problem because you remove affordable units and create something different. We are not that, and we're just behind the ball in providing supply because, you know, if you look at some of the 20, 30, 40, maybe 50-year-old product that's in the marketplace multifamily wise, and you see the rents that it's getting compared to, you know, even what our best product is, it just doesn't make sense. And so as you add new product, that'll start to straighten itself out.
Appreciate that, Nick. Christine, anything to add that you see on the horizon that you want to share with the group?
I need space.
Space. We'll go out and get it. Wes, Corey, anything you want to add on the horizon that we need to be aware of?
I think building on the affordable housing component, Nick covered some of the essentials, that it's not necessarily driving subsidized housing or income restricted housing. It's providing supply so the market demand can meet an equilibrium and provide housing for folks that demand it at a reasonable rate. And so the state of Florida has changed law that allows for local governments to provide ease of conversion of commercial land use, as Wes indicated, along US Highway 1, where we have transit, where we have commercial services, we have proximity to schools and potentially parks and sidewalks and the essentials to support multifamily housing. We're starting to see that demand from the private sector of folks getting creative and looking to change the land use or use the state's allowance to be able to provide these infill projects and truly build a project of 7, 8, 10, 15 units per acre where folks aren't out on an island. So that's refreshing. I know within the city of Fort Pierce, because they have gridded streets and infrastructure and utility authority, they're, I think, going to be the next frontier for multifamily housing to support the success and job growth for Pursuit, Maverick, the industrial distribution centers north of Midway Road. And so having those partnerships, having collective objectives where the county and the cities align in what we need and what we're supporting, and having the private sector partner in that. And so everything we've talked about today is having the same vision and understanding the benefits that industrial job growth and the support for residential housing provide our community long-term.
Well, we'll get into NIMBYism and the cave dwellers and the bananas later for another session. Wes, you got the last word, my friend.
Well, just to follow on to some of Corey's comments there, I mean, in some respect, it's a matter of understanding what the issue is and kind of getting a better understanding of how we can affect that. And I know that the city just recently approved, working with the county and the city of Fort Pierce, to do a affordable housing study, attainable housing study. So when that's completed, hopefully that'll give us some better insights on what the underlying drivers and issues are and allow us to come up with some recommendations on how to move forward.
Excellent. I think we're going to take questions now. Jules, is that? Oh, okay. Looks like they're at the bar.
Can you hear us? John?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, so I do have a question on the housing topic. Are there any projects that have been announced or any projects in the works that are going to provide some of that multifamily workforce housing?
I did a recent count out here in Tradition. I think Steve had a slide that I need to steal from him, but I think in 2019, 2020, there was an addition of like 250 or 300 units in Tradition. And I think if you look at the pipeline line now, there's about 3,000 units in that pipeline.
Corey, what are you seeing in the county?
In the county, we're seeing smaller projects, but beginning to aggregate. Last Tuesday, the board approved a 150-unit multifamily project in the city of Fort Pierce. It seems like weekly somebody's proposing 100 units here, 220 units there, 300 units here. So it's a matter of taking that step forward and launching it. Seeing that.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Wes mentioned City of Port St. Lucie and St. Lucie County doing a joint workforce housing study, and the needs assessment and implementation plan, when that is done, I think will add being able, having us to quantify the actual problems, like how many units do we really need? Any other questions from our friends from Fort Lauderdale?
Question?
You pretty much answered mine, but I was just curious about airfare. And if you lived in Port St. Lucie and you wanted to go to New York City or Los Angeles or you change planes in Atlanta, where would you go? Would you go to West Palm Beach? Would you go to Melbourne? Would you go to Orlando? How would you travel the United States airfare wise?
I mean, I don't travel a ton, but I travel a decent bit, and Orlando, Melbourne, or West Palm are all kind of viable options. Orlando is nice because, the airport's kind of on the south end of town, so we can, kind of blow into Orlando without ever really hitting too much traffic if you time it right.
And Palm Beach is great. Nice airport, in and out quick. You can get anywhere you want to go.
50 minutes from Tradition without evoking the attention of the Florida Highway Patrol.
In the BMW, you've done it in what, 35?
Depending on what you have.
So,
Okay.
one more question for me, sorry, gang. St. Lucie has not been traditionally covered as far as market stats, particularly industrial, right? So does anybody have a handle on current vacancy of the 11.5 million square feet of entitlements? Are we looking at seeing 2 million square feet delivered? Do we know how much of that's built as you've spoken for? Basic supply demand dynamics, do we have any kind of look at that? And then also kind of triple net rent benchmarks?
I think he's asking for, kind of the market stats on industrial rents, industrial occupancy, and of that 11 million square feet, what is spoken for. A lot of that 11 million square feet is spec, from what I understand. Rents, I think, are getting out of the single digits net, and our vacancy, it's got to be less than 5% right now.
So I'm showing about 4% vacancy. Space under or over 20,000 square feet, we're looking at 850 to 1050 triple net. Space less than 15,000 square feet, recent leases are at $10 and $12 a square foot triple net. But again, there's so much in the pipeline until it actually hits and leases are done. We're going by, some older space and recent lease rates.
Yeah, I think the real question, and nobody really has this answer, is, and it applies to the multifamily too, is what actually gets built? If you can't get concrete, there's going to be winners and losers. There's going to be projects that get built and don't get built. And so that is the $1 million question for us up here is which of these projects do you hang your hat on as getting built?
It's a great question, Pete, because it raises a big issue, which is the data isn't available. Honestly, we need the help of the brokerage community to help report that data to those entities that track it, like CoStar. When the city first acquired the Southern Grove property, the jobs corridor, we embarked on a master planning study, hired some economic development consultants, regional planning council, did a deep dive on the market. And the very first thing that they came back with was, there's no data. We have a very limited data set to work with on industrial. So we had to really dig into our files at the city and kind of give them the information on how much has occurred over time to really get the information we needed. It's not available out there from those reporting agencies, and we need more help from the brokerage community to report it to them.
Yeah, I think it was just a few years ago where it's like, okay, what was the total industrial warehouse square footage built? And it was like 50,000. It's like, oh, you guys are players, aren't you?
Well, and not to toot our own horn as brokers here, but you got to come ask us because CoStar data is wrong.
Any other questions?
Love you, Nick. Any other questions from Fort Lauderdale?
Nope, thank you.
Thanks for joining us virtually, and we appreciate the questions and the interaction.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Where's Brightline going to be?
Interesting question. So for those that may or may not know, in the settlement between Indian River, Martin County, and St. Lucie County, and I would like to add that St. Lucie County did not sue Brightline. The settlement was that Brightline must build a station in the Treasure Coast within a 5-year period. So obviously, they're very involved in renovating and improving the track system all the way from Miami up to Brevard County, and then to the west into Orlando International Airport. So they have to make a decision on where to put it. Obviously, the best place is downtown Fort Pierce. That's my unbiased opinion. In terms of population and also being able to have growth, they say Brightline is a real estate company that actually owns a train. So being able to be in the smack dab middle of the Treasure Coast, being able to serve the area here, that's what I think. And they got to make a decision soon. It's a nice place by King's Landing. They make a perfect spot for a train station.
So has there been locations talked about or?
Yes,
Oh, okay,
but that's the best one.
okay.
Yeah.
Questions, anybody, before we close out? I'd like to just close on June 8th. We're having a developing leader event that's going to be discussing affordable housing. So if anybody wants to see it, come to Fort Lauderdale.
Thank you, Jules. How about a round of applause for our great panelists? So would like to thank Mattamy Homes and Sandstone Group, along with NAOP, for sponsoring this evening. And again, appreciate your participation. Wish you a safe